This is cacao, and it is amazing. And this is how I usually take cacao. It's an absolute mess right now, and that's kind of the point. So, whenever I have cacao, I usually do like sort of just self-care. I guess it could be generalized if you wanted, but let's be specific, right? So I have like several different journals, each one with its own kind of like DNA and like time frame. I have oracle cards. I have my massage gun, which is awesome, super awesome, and some essential oils. My massage roller here, my red light for red light therapy here, and a lot of water, lots of water. And the reason for all of this is because, well, I guess it's just good to do. I've just learned that it's a good thing to do. But yeah, I wanted to just share. Part of why I do this is to process things, whether they're actually conscious or not, whether they're actually like in my field of view or not. Sometimes when I do this, when I have a cacao ceremony with myself, and I sit and I do yoga, that was the other piece that's missing. Usually I'll do yoga, like yin yoga, restorative, something very slow, really getting in tune with my body. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts and memories that just kind of go through, and sometimes it's things that I would never think about if I didn't do this, which has taught me that this is very important and helpful for me. There's a lot of different ways that something intentional like this can be done. But I find that this is one of the best ways for me. God, cacao is so good. So I could get into the history of cacao and like everything like that, but I'm going to start out actually with, as soon as I took my first sip of this, which happened right before I started the video, I knew what was happening. Like, this happens almost every time that I have cacao, where I could just smell it, not even drink it yet, and already I can feel the emotions and the memories and the things that need to be felt or expressed or whatever. And that brings me to my point, which is when I took my first sip this time, the healing for me was not that I needed healing or not that I needed to sit or process, but that I needed to express. Like, expression is my healing right now, or at least in this moment. And maybe I'm even possibly going through a phase of healing through expression. That includes through my voice. That includes through art. That includes through teaching yoga. All sorts of things like that. I'm going to keep drinking it and taking sips. Hope you don't mind. And so expression is my healing, because for a long time I did not express myself. And that is pretty much in every way possible you can think, across the spectrum in every way, expression. So like, I guess my memories, my first thoughts go back to like childhood, as they do, and times when I didn't feel like I could express myself or chose not to because I was too afraid. Like standing up for myself or speaking a boundary when I really needed one, but was too afraid to because it would either get ignored or pushed through anyway, or any number of fears, some of which were legitimate based on some of my childhood, and some of which became more in here. But after a long time of having experiences where your boundaries get crossed all the time or ignored or this or that, it's really hard to want to keep speaking boundaries and actually caring enough when you think they're just, it's going to be complete. You feel effectively like it's pointless or you're kind of hopeless. That was absolutely the place where I was. And I'd say kind of like early child, like probably like preteens, teens era, right? And this definitely shaped me as I grew into the person that I grew into, and even the person I am now in certain ways. And I'm realizing that now. Sometimes it takes a while. That's okay. That's something I'm having to also kind of deal with and come to terms with. There's a part of me that's inner monologue that's like, why couldn't you figure this out earlier? Why now? Why did it have to take you twice your life, like double the time since that happened and then some, and then you figure it out. I've had to let go of all that. But it's taken time, just to realize that some things take a while. And I guess a lot of that, I guess I'd call it repression of speaking and expressing my emotions, my feelings, whatever. That repression resulted in a lot of anger and a lot of rage, I would say. Because what happens, when you've got, I don't know why this is the metaphor my brain just came up with, but when you get a Diet Coke, I don't drink Diet Coke, but you know where I'm going. I think you know where I'm going with this. You get a Diet Coke and you put the Mentos in it or whatever it is, and then it just like explodes or whatever. You don't even need the Mentos. You just shake one up a lot and then open the thing and it explodes, right? There's pressure inside of that bottle. And like that shaking, that like aggression, that's kind of what was happening on the inside of me when I wasn't saying what I needed to say, or didn't feel like I was able to, and so I chose not to, and just like, instead of going out with my energy, because I felt like I couldn't eventually, it sort of got to a point where I felt like I couldn't, it just started to go back here. It just goes, whoop, eventually just kind of inverts, and the energy goes back into you. So your anger at whoever or whatever circumstance kept you from being able to express yourself, turns around and goes this way. And that's where we get like chronic depression and suicide and like really deep, dark type stuff, like in here, right? That's where those things come from some form of that, of like you're trying to go up and out and instead you choose to go this way. Usually that's out of fear. Almost always it's out of fear. And out of survival a lot of times. Sometimes we don't have another option or feel like we have another option. And it's the best we got. That's another thing I'm working through. Everything in that period of time in my life, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, when I was all that, I was doing my best. I was doing my best with what I had. And there's even a piece there of forgiving, like the me who I am now, 34-year-old Tyler, forgiving that boy, that preteen, that teenager, for whatever it was. In truth, there's nothing to forgive, but still doing it anyway, because there's parts of our brain, there's like ego parts of us that want to hold on to hatred towards self, towards that version of us, towards that time you did the thing and it made you feel bad, or, like whatever. That time you weren't strong enough, and so that your life sucked for a while. Forgiveness towards that. And I've been doing that actually quite a lot recently, especially in the last week or two. Ran across the Ho'oponopono prayer, which, if you don't know it, it's, I think, let's see. So this prayer is essentially 4 lines, and you say it, and it's meant to kind of restructure things. It's hard to explain, because as soon as you try and apply logic to it, it really doesn't make sense. It's really more one of those things that you kind of just have to do, and then you feel shifts. It's much more intuitive and empathic and feeling oriented, like heart oriented. And I guess you could look at it with logic, but essentially the prayer is this: I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And then you just repeat that. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. You just repeat that. You keep going. And there's a lot of different schools of thought on how you do it, but really, for me, once you get out of your head about it, like, why am I saying this? Who am I saying it to? You start getting into that left brain. It has to be organized. It has to be a point. Once you kind of are able to kind of drop out of that if you do it long enough, is what I've found for me. And once that happens, once that shift takes place, my mind starts to think of people, whether it's others or myself, or parts, like versions of myself from, like, again, say my preteen or young boy or teenager me or whatever, whoever. My brain starts to shift to all these different people and versions as I'm saying this prayer, and it's effectively forgiving them and thanking them and sending love to them. And what that does is it heals it really feels like it heals your DNA, your cells, on a cellular level, spiritual level. And the more you do it, the better it gets. So, like, it's cumulative. There's a lot of people that say you have to do it more than once. You do it every day or a couple times a day, here and there when you can, whatever. And it works. It definitely, or has for me. All that to say, there was a lot of forgiveness that I had to do for this version of me, this younger me, that I'm still doing. The lines between healing or needing healing and healed, pretty blurry. That's something that I don't think is talked about that much in the healing world, the spiritual healing world. It's blurry. to be completely honest. A lot of us feel like, hey, I want to heal myself. I want to heal my childhood. I want to heal my wounds. I want to heal, wounds from this person, this relationship, or this experience or whatever. And that's good and fine. It's just, after a while of seeking healing, especially for a specific thing, we can be so like accustomed to the act of healing or seeking healing that at a certain point it becomes so habitual that we don't even really realize that maybe we are healed. Maybe we just kept going because that's what we learned how to do, like healing. There are days when I think about it, I'm like, do I need cacao today? Like, do I actually need to? Like, is there actually a need? And this is very intuitive for me. And I go kind of inward and typically will feel into it, see what the feeling is first, and then I'll involve my guides, angels, and see, what I can get from them too, and then go from there. For example. And I don't know why that's something that's coming through right now, but maybe that's a message someone needs to hear, is learn how to press pause on your healing, whatever it is, and take inventory of yourself and your how far you've come in your healing. That's not an easy thing to do, by the way, especially if you've never done it. Very challenging, because we want to get in our heads about what we got to do or what's more comfortable, because we can get very comfortable in a healing journey. Even uncomfortable things. Like, there are a lot of things in the healing journey that are very uncomfortable, but we can get very comfortable in those uncomfortable things, and eventually it just becomes a habit and we just keep doing it. But do we need to keep doing it? Do we need to change how we do it? Do we need to do it more often, less often, in a different place, with different people, different ways? There's so many things. And I'm not trying to overwhelm anyone. This isn't, there's a lot of factors, is what I'm saying. And you don't need to really worry about it either, ironically. And I'll tell you why. I've got chocolate, little dots of chocolate all over my hand now, probably on my face too. I don't even care, it's so good. So we don't need to worry about it. And the reason why is because the rate that we're going is the rate that we're going. That will shift, that will ebb and flow up and down more and less over time, right? When we realize that where we are right now is where we are right now, this is where we are right here, in this moment right now, then you can breathe. And realize this is where you are right now. And if your hair's not on fire and you're not getting actively murdered or actively dying, you're all right. Right? Obviously, there's things that aren't great that happen sometimes, but my point is, we can be okay in this moment. Even if we have some crazy things happening in our lives, or our health isn't great and something's going crazy with our health, or in our house situation or our relationship situation, maybe there's a toxic atmosphere, all sorts of things, right? Maybe it's continuous. Even in those situations, you're still a sovereign being. This container, this right here that you've got, is yours. Yours to use, yours to take care of, yours to carry through this life. And you have authority over this. No one else does. Even if we've, in codependency and all sorts of different things, even when we kind of intermesh all the energies, even then, this is still you. You are still you. Without anything else, you're still you. And yeah, we do tie ourselves to other things and other experiences through our identity too. That's kind of a talk for another time. I could go on forever about that. Like we can intermingle our identity with other people, with relationships, with parents. We could even intermingle our identity with our job. That's very common, super common. With what were our habits or our hobbies. Like, I'm a gamer. That could be my identity. I'm a yoga teacher or yogi. That could be my identity. Do I claim that as my identity? Sometimes. But that isn't who I am. It's something I do. And it's an energy that I carry. It's not really who I am though. That's just a program I've installed once I came on this earth, like something I learned how to do that then I could say that I am now, but I'm not really. Does that make sense? When you really dig down far enough, when you really start getting down there, like deep in here, going through the layers of identity, going through the layers of healing that you need or don't need, and just see that you are just a soul, a heart, an energy, whatever you want to call it, that exists within this shell, this body, that's here on this earth right now, that you have sovereignty over what you do, what you think, where you go, how you do it, everything. And realize that you can just breathe right now, no matter what's happening. And you can do that as many times as you want, for as long as you want, as deep as you want. You have the option to relax your muscles when you do it, to rest, to take even just 20 seconds of rest for yourself, like true rest. Not watching TV, not listening to music, just resting, just letting go for 20 seconds. Or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour or a day, whatever. I've slept for it's the longest I've slept. I've slept for 14 hours before. I don't know how I did it, but it's happened, That's pretty much, I'd say that's pretty much it. Expression. That was where we started with this. It's important to express yourself. And that is my healing right now. And the irony is that now I am doing it. This is it right here. This is my healing. And being seen as well. So here we are. This is my new healing modality, my YouTube channel, my wherever this is. It's kind of funny. So yeah, anger, rage, that was something when I started this, I wanted to talk about a little bit more. So once that, going back to that shaken up Coke bottle or whatever, once that pressure builds, right, it's got to go somewhere. Usually it goes, what I was saying earlier is if it goes in, it becomes depression and kind of self-hatred and whatever. But it can turn back out. I'm living proof of that. And that back out doesn't have to be, hurting other people, which sometimes it happens. The whole expression, hurt people, I don't like cliches. There is truth in them, or they wouldn't be cliches. However, I don't like them because they hyper generalize something that should be specific and detailed. And the truth is that hurt people have an opportunity to hurt others. For me, I chose a route of self-hurt instead of outward hurt. And neither one is really great. We could argue all day about what's better or worse. I don't really like that argument. I don't think it's useful. It just is what it is. But I've realized that self-hurt, I've realized how to heal it. It's taken some time and some patience. But that's given me so much insight. And I feel like that insight is something I can now share with other people, and it may help. And even the off chance that it does help, even in a small way, makes me feel so good. And that's not why I'm doing this, mind you. I'm doing this because I feel like expressing myself. However, that is awesome. I do love that aspect too. That's kind of the cool thing about expression and vulnerability, is that there's an opportunity for others to relate and affirm something for you. And that affirmation feels so good. It's not the most crucial thing on the planet, but for some people it can be, especially people who are struggling really hard. I myself have been there. There have been people who've been brave and said something or expressed something that I needed to hear, that really shifted my energy, shifted my life in a certain way. So, yeah, still working on all that and moving through the emotions. Expressing anger for me has been very difficult because it doesn't seem like our culture allows it. Like, it seems like our culture wants to suppress anger and rage in every way possible. Like, to our culture, it's the ugliest thing on the planet. So we just shove it to the side, right? But there is such a thing, I believe, as righteous anger. I believe that anger is not inherently bad. And anger does not have to exist in the form of destruction and, harm towards others or towards self. I think that it can be expressed in healthy ways. You just got to get creative. For me, a lot of that has been sort of martial arts and yoga, and sometimes just like yelling really loud. If I need to, just yell into a pillow or something. That actually works pretty well. I've also beaten the shit out of pillows before. just, or just like stomp, just flail around, whatever. Exercise helps a lot. Yeah. Sort of just processing this. I don't know if anyone else struggles with anger, but if you do, feel free to drop it in the comments, what your thoughts are on that, how you deal with anger. Just curious. And just remember that it's okay to express that emotion. It is okay to express anger, even in the moment when something is happening. And I'm realizing that now. I am not the same kid that is in the same circumstance that kind of started the chain of like kind of repression, pressurization, right? That version of me isn't the one that I am now. I'm not. This is the person sitting here. This is different than that. I'm no longer in that situation, so I don't have to repress it. I can feel it and express it. I have friends who will accept me for expressing it and support me through expressing it. And even if you don't, like, you can still do it into the ether. It doesn't matter. So yeah, that's my message. That's pretty much the whole thing. I just felt like expressing that. There's not much left, but I believe I'm going to finish the rest of this while doing some yoga. And there will be more yoga in the future. I am working on some projects that will unveil that as it comes along. It will be primarily online, but I will be teaching in person as well. Obviously, this is on the internet, so that doesn't matter too much to most people. If you happen to live in Columbia, South Carolina, I guess it does. But anyway, there'll be more of that coming soon. And I just wanted to remind you all and myself that you are loved. You are supported, even when you don't believe that you are. And there's no real way I can prove that to you except have faith, believe. Expect miracles. It's the last card I pulled. Just saying. Thank you. Till next time.